The storm raged outside, battering the old cabin with sheets of rain. Alex pulled his jacket tighter around his shoulders as the wind howled, its mournful wail seeping through the cracks in the wood. He'd just finished a long day climbing the rugged trails to check on the wildlife cameras scattered through the forest, and was finally looking forward to some quiet time by the fire. The crackling warmth of the fireplace was a welcome relief from the chill in the air. He reached for his mug of hot tea, savoring the steam rising from it as he sat back into the worn leather chair. The soft flicker of flames dancing against the stone hearth provided a calm contrast to the wild storm outside. But the calm didn't last long. With a sudden jolt, the room was plunged into darkness. The hum of the lights died immediately, and the silence that followed felt unnatural. Alex froze for a moment, his heart skipping a beat. A power outage. He had expected something like this, living so far out in the woods, surrounded by trees that swayed with every gust of wind. It wasn't unusual for the power to go out. He grabbed for the flashlight beside him, clicking it on. The beam cut through the dark, illuminating the walls in harsh shadows. A flicker of something outside the window caught his eye. His pulse quickened. Someone had a light out there. It wasn't just the storm reflecting off the trees. It was a small, steady glow, like a lantern or a flashlight, moving through the darkness. It was too deliberate to be an animal. This was human. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. He hadn't seen another soul for miles. Alex moved quickly, scanning his surroundings. His first instinct was to head outside, maybe shout, or see if it was someone who had wandered off the trail, but something stopped him. He glanced at the old wooden door, now sealed shut by the storm, and then remembered the backup generator out back. Surely it had a few hours of fuel, enough to get the lights back on and restore some sense of normalcy. He grabbed his jacket and flashlight and made his way toward the door, but before he could even reach the handle, his eyes flicked over to the dim corner of the room. Something was wrong. The fuel line to the generator, something he'd checked just that morning, was dangling loosely, its rubber tubing sliced clean through. The blackened ends of the severed line curled away from each other like a broken snake. Someone had cut it. He could see the faintest marks on the ground, the impression of boots in the mud leading away from the generator and towards the tree line. His heart started to race. Who had been here? As if on cue, the light outside moved again. It was closer now, closer than before, and it wasn't just a random sway of light. The beam seemed to pause, then tilt toward the cabin, as if the person knew he was watching. Alex's stomach tightened. His thoughts raced. It could be someone else lost in the storm, or worse, someone who had been watching him all along. He couldn't afford to panic, not yet. He needed to think clearly. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his pulse. The window, the glass was fogged, the condensation from the cold storm making it hard to see. But as he moved closer, he could make out a faint shape outside. The figure was moving, but not like a person. The light flickered strangely, casting odd shadows that made the figure look less human, more like something that wasn't supposed to be there. Suddenly, there was a creak behind him. His heart stopped. The back door, which had been locked tight just moments ago, was slightly ajar. The doorframe groaned under the pressure of the wind outside, and Alex knew someone had been inside. Panic shot through him. He hadn't heard anyone enter the cabin, but that didn't mean they hadn't. He could feel his breath quickening, his mind spinning with possibilities. He could grab his gear and head down the mountain to the nearby ranger station. The storm would make it difficult to get help, but it wasn't impossible. He could leave now, running down the winding path through the forest, and get out of the range of whatever or whoever was out there. Or he could investigate, try to understand what he was up against. His flashlight's beam wavered slightly in his hand. Investigate or retreat? The figure outside had paused again, staring toward the cabin. For a moment, the glow of the lantern illuminated the stranger's face. Or was it a face? He couldn't tell. Alex took a step toward the back door, slowly, quietly. A low growl echoed in the distance, the sound of something large moving through the forest. His heart thundered in his chest. Whatever was out there, it wasn't just human. His instincts told him to run, but he had spent months learning the forest, its wildlife, its quiet rhythms. He wasn't going to let fear control him. He steadied his breath and opened the door just a crack, slipping out into the stormy night. The rain pelted his face as he crouched low, using the shadows of the trees to hide his movements. The light in the distance flickered once more, and Alex moved toward it. He didn't know who or what he would find, but he had to know, because out here, in the deep forest, the line between man and beast was thin, and tonight, Alex had a feeling that line was about to blur.